welcome everybody, thanks for coming. Today Jeanette has asked me to sort of just as tutors to the Recovery College, just to get a bit of feedback, just to hear how you've been getting on, just so that they will help them with their evaluation and if they're successful for planning for the future.
Richard Warden, obviously, it says that there. I'm originally from Canada, but I've been working in film in various ways in the UK for the whole time I've been here, which is about 10 years. And I've known Jeanette for quite a while through working with the Mental Health Festival in Paisley or in Renfrewshire, and then having worked with the Scottish version of the Mental Health Festival, the national version. And what I've done, I was doing a festival related course in the autumn before, with the hope that we were going to have events at the Harbour Arts Centre in Irvine this May. That obviously didn't happen, but I've done a session on film and mental health online, the history of film and mental health. And then this month I'm doing a series of 4 sessions on archive film and wellbeing.
So I'm Sharon. I am the recovery practitioner for Penumbra's Peers for Hope service in North Ayrshire. We're a peer service, so all the staff have lived experience of mental health issues, and what we've been doing with the Recovery College is delivering our own workshops as part of their curriculum. So we do a variety of workshops on mental health, be it around anxiety or sleep and fitness, to kind of more complex topics like stigma and healthy relationships. So we do quite a wide range of things. And it's delivered with myself and another one of the peer workers normally.
John McCormack, I've been doing bits of work for the Recovery College for quite a long time, probably since its inception actually, with North Ayrshire, and started doing the Right to Recovery group work with them. I'm helping people to become facilitators of the course themselves, and then doing stuff on addiction and trauma and mental health. So recently I did one online which was the name that I wasn't entirely comfortable with, which was Recovery Wisdom, which is extremely pretentious, but I like to think the wisdom was in the room rather than coming from me. So it was, and so yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
I'm seeing you, Fiona, next. If I could go to Fiona.
Hi, I'm Fiona McNeil. I'm a lifelong self-employed leadership development consultant. So I've been self-employed for 30 years. I've known Jeanette for around 15, 20 years, and I met Karen probably about 15 years ago as well. I have been facilitating the personal leadership pilot at the Wellbeing and Recovery College over the last 5 weeks, and just absolutely fascinated with how the constructs and concepts that I would be very familiar using in an organisational context have absolutely mapped across to people looking at their personal leadership. And I think particularly we've done quite a big piece of work around your personal leadership compass. There's been quite a lot of chat, John, about the work that you've done, and clearly some connectivity around that. So that's been really good, and that would be, if we're lucky to keep going, then it would be really nice to spend some time and think about how we can dovetail that together in a more, because of course you were there first. Now I'm here and I'm doing some stuff around transactional analysis, and I know you did that with the group also. So I'm really loving it. It's been an astonishing experience.
I'm Claire Young. I'm a physio who's moved into mental health work because of my fascination with the mind-body link, which is now well understood and known. I love explaining it to people and seeing the aha moment when they realize. I mean, I've had one woman who sort of said to me, "Is this a thing?" And she said, "How come people have given me drugs and not told me?" And the sense of empowerment that, yeah, fab. The sense of empowerment that they got from understanding their own chemistry. And so my way into well, it doesn't matter, but what I do with North Ayrshire is Wellness and Recovery College is the Living Life to the Full course, and just repetitively find that worthwhile, find it links people together on the course, all sorts of, you know, good stuff in there. And then tried out last time 3 sessions, which I called Mind and Body, which one about your adrenaline system, your nervous system, one about your fascial system, one about your immune system. The way I work is if I understand the chemistry, now I'll put the hard work in. But if you're really depressed and somebody says, oh, darling, just go for a walk, you're like, you know, I'm depressed. You tell me to go for a walk. So once people know the chemistry, in my thinking, it makes it easier. And for some, it does. For some, it makes no difference whatsoever. So that's a line I'm personally pursuing. I call myself a synergist, which means I bring together a whole lot of ideas. And this is a better way of putting it than a jack of all trades, master, you know.
There's a variety of things for me. So I think one of the things is, as a facilitator, I felt very held in the space by Trish and by Jeanette, and that's been really important. I know my stuff, but you're coming into a new environment. Jeanette and I debrief after every session. That's been really useful. That whole reflective practice piece is really important to me around my own development. The response of the women to the material has been probably better than we could have expected. I'm not exactly sure what we expected, you know, and I've been working with transactional analysis for longer than I care to remember, 25 plus years, and it never fails to kind of capture the understanding of, oh, okay, so when I do that and he does this, actually I'm part of what's going on there and I'm in that transaction. So I think there's been a huge amount of honesty. I think that's the other thing I would say. So I think that's gone really well. And Jeanette and I have been really clear that this is about the future. It's not, we're trying not to talk too much about recovery, but more to talk about leadership. And to see it as another kind of bunch of tools and skills that people can take on the, you know, that personal leadership. And I think one of the highlights probably so far, one of the women turned around, I think 2 weeks ago, and said, so I'm the leader of my own life then. You just went, wow.
Well, I call it the democratization of knowledge and skills, because over the years I've been teaching at university and studied psychology and become a psychotherapist and all this. And I'm at the age where I want to pass all that on to the people that could actually use it most for themselves. So I don't want to be teaching any of that stuff to students anymore. I want to take it directly to the people who've got mental health challenges, or they're facing up to life's problems and difficulties. And we bring transactional analysis, we bring strength-based thinking and solution-focused brief therapy, and we bring a lot of stuff about trauma, so that when people hear simple phrases like, it's not what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you that matters, and they hear that and they can go away and think, oh my God, my whole life I thought there was something wrong with my brain, but actually it's my life experiences that have led to these situations I'm in. So, and I guess the other thing I've done, because it's what I do, is I just come with a framework of things we're going to do, but I also take a lead from what's going on in the room. So if people are expressing concerns about worried relationship problems, the whole thing veers towards relationships and how you manage that. So the students have figured me out, and one of them said when we were in the last Zoom meeting, Jeanette was asking what's working and all the rest of it, and are you going to, if John's doing a course again in the actual college face-to-face, will you come to that? And somebody said, oh yes, I'll come to that, because it's never the same thing twice. He adapts it as to what we're saying in the room. So they've rumbled what I'm up to, and they know they know what the game is. So I guess for me, these kind of things work, and it is a community, and trust develops, and it's got the structure, I guess, of the Recovery College there, so that if anything does, as things do, boundaries go a bit funny, or relationships go a bit funny, you can fall back on the structure of the Recovery College, and you've got RAM-H involved as well, and you've got the North Ayrshire Health and Social Care Partnership. So it's not isolated, and it's not, do you know what I mean? It's safe because it's got this other stuff around it to keep it safe.
The things that have gone well, as always on the course, the people talking to each other, and I've always, Living Life to the Full has a system where they ask for feedback on every session. And when I first got the course, I thought, every session, come on, get over yourselves. And well, I have discovered it's very good for my humility, because they ask, what's the best part that you got today? Well, I haven't yet seen them write down. Claire is phenomenal. What they write down is stuff that says, I didn't know I was the only one. It was so good to hear other people talking. Now, somewhere in there, they're quite nice about what I do, but absolutely a major part of these courses is that they hear they are not the only one.
In terms of kind of longer, like the full year, one of the big things that's been different for us this kind of semester this year was the framework that was put in place, so that people had a kind of track that they could go into. Some of our courses are a wee bit heavier going, like the kind of tackling stigma one can bring up a lot for people. But a lot of them are very discussion based, very kind of entry level, just starting to have these conversations. And when we were getting people on that had already done courses like some of the courses you've talked about that are a wee bit more in depth, a wee bit more kind of almost heading in an academic area, and then they were coming into Sleep Well, Be Well, they were expecting it to be very, very different. So now that we're getting people that it's their first kind of steps into these conversations, that's definitely helping me as kind of with engagement and what people's expectations are, and I think people are getting more out of it since that's been set up. Also, the contact, I think everyone's touched on this, the contact with Trish in the Recovery College has been excellent in terms of just knowing what's going on and following things up. But even while I've had to kind of dip out of it over the last few months to deal with other things in the organisation in terms of working from home, I've still been getting emails through, I've still been being kept up to date with what's going on, and that's been really helpful just to get an idea of what's working for other people and what's still going on with the Recovery College.
But one thing I wanted to point out that I thought has worked out quite well with Zoom, and I was surprised by this, is that because we have this, well, in gallery format right now for me, or whether it's scroll, I mean, what at least I've tended to do is, and as you've demonstrated, Karen, is just go through everyone, and I've not yet had a situation. It might be because of who's been involved, who's been willing to be involved on Zoom, but I think there's probably been more participation from more people than there has been, at least for me, when I've just been in the room with them. Maybe I have some things to learn from that about my in-person performance. But I've never had someone, when they've been asked, they're next in line or on the screen, defer and say, well, I've got nothing to say. So somehow Zoom has helped some people participate more than they would have otherwise. I just think that's a really interesting thing that is maybe helpful. And a lot of what some others have said, I do very much get the sense that some people will ease their way in through Zoom and then end up attending in person. So I do think that Zoom should continue to be an option for the college.
Yeah, the support's been great.
We've talked about Trish supporting on Zooms. I'm just taking my brain another direction. Just over the whole year, I find the office team very supportive, positively. It's great.
And I think we had facilitators on that had previously been on courses I've done, and they were facilitating. So we would go into the breakout rooms and they would go off and facilitate a session themselves, and this was people with lived experience and such like that were facilitating it, and that went well, and obviously was very good for their confidence to go in. And so I sent everybody an agenda in advance of the session with what the facilitators were going to do, so they had the kind of confidence that they were going to follow a certain pattern, and it would last for 10 minutes, then would come back into the big room. And it's nice to see people who were, you know, in quite a state of, I would say, personal distress themselves. When I met them a couple of years ago, now co-facilitating on the course, I mean, that feels to me like real progress.
I would go straight to the last point that John made, this system of having people who've gone through the course before, then helping facilitate. This sense that there is progression within the college, that people arrive feeling that, you know, their life's to pot and that they're to pot. And within 2 years, they're co-facilitating. And I know from the women who've done that with me, they find it an amazing experience. And I use breakout rooms a lot in Living Life to the Full and sending them off with very specific questions. But the development that I see in that time is that at the beginning, people tell these long, rambly stories. And within 2-3 sessions, usually, they have learned to concentrate their answers, to do, you know, the listening that you were talking about in your course this morning, Karen. I actively teach good listening. And for some of them, that they do comment, that's the first time they've experienced that. It's the first time they've been held to doing it. That they are not to tell their own story, they're not to interrupt at all. So I think that there's learning that goes on just purely through the interaction, and it is still happening on the Zoom.
I'm learning a lot from the people involved. I mean, around subject matter that I'm in a way supposed to be the expert, but you know, far from it a lot of the time. I mean, there was an interaction I had with one of the peer volunteer coordinators for my course, and put it out to her ahead of our session coming up on Monday. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know if I would have thought of that. That's a very insightful contribution there. I'm you know, just so many examples of that. So you know, it's just been an educational experience for me as well, on just the, you know, in a holistic kind of way, but also in just a very specific way as well. I've gotten specific, I think somebody used the word nuggets before, specific nuggets of knowledge that I've taken some of the dust off of those and taken them away. That's been great.
The kind of positive outcomes for some of the people who I've worked with. For example, there was a group I was running in Beath, and the first workshop, I think they had like 14 people, and then they instantly all dropped off. And we ended up with around 5 people who attended every following group, or almost every following group, unless something kind of serious was going on with their lives. And there was someone there who'd mentioned that it'd been a long time since they attended anything like this, and every week they desperately wanted to stay at home but could push themselves to come out. There was another young woman there who in the first session didn't speak. She was very, very nervous, shook the whole time, and at the end of the last session was telling us how she'd got a job at a care home and she was really excited to start, and she was so confident and so happy to chat. And obviously she had other supports as well, but she really put the Recovery College as being a major factor in the change, even just in, I think it was 6 weeks.
I was surprised today at the listening, how deep some of it was, and I wasn't expecting that on Zoom.
There's I think there's a real potential for keeping Zoom as one of the ways into North Ayrshire Recovery College, because I know of people who have only come because they didn't have to leave their house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Having made friends, I am fairly sure that if we had a face-to-face, they'd be there, because they're not scared anymore.
Anything you'd like to say about what support you would like to see, and what are your hopes for the future? Any other evaluations from what you've experienced with working with the Recovery College?
I thoroughly enjoy the teamwork. I really do. And I think it's so much more effective having this huge variety of courses. I think it's just fabulous to be aligned with it. So all I would say is more, please.
Yeah, just whether it be with Zoom or when we're eventually able to do face-to-face again, that's what I'm looking forward to, is just getting back involved again.
I think creating that space which allows for that sharing of knowledge and wisdom. I'm sure on behalf of Jeanette and the team, I would like to say thank you all very much for your time this afternoon and for your participation. And it's great to see everybody's faces and to understand. I've heard, stories about from Jeanette what everybody's been doing.